All right, what is up, everybody? So I'm still at my mom's house, moved to a different room. My mom has a degree in art and for a while dabbled in interior design, and she owned an art gallery. It was like it was like a frame shop, kind of like a Michael's, but also like she would bring in like paintings that she thought were interesting and stuff and would display them, and sometimes people would buy them. Anyway, point is, she has, as you can see, a flair for the decorative, so it's definitely nicer than my place. Yeah, I thought that I would talk about some things that have been on my mind. I've saved them to my phone to discuss because, like I said the other day, I'm trying to do something more casual with my Patreon so that I put out more videos. And so, in the past, like I said, in the past, the idea of putting out a bunch of videos on Patreon in addition to YouTube was really daunting. But I realized, well, they don't have to necessarily be like the most sophisticated videos in the world. People just want to hear and see more of me. So here's a few things I wanted to talk about. I noticed that Charlotte Proudman, one of the big Amber Heard defenders, I noticed that she once again is complaining about men dating younger women. And I don't really want to get into that whole conversation, but there's just a couple of things that I've noticed lately. I think that the days of women being greatly, well, let me back up. I think that the days of women of a certain economic status being greatly impaired um, by men's preference for younger women on the dating market, I think those days might be coming to an end with the advancements that we're seeing in cosmetic procedures and they're getting more and more sophisticated. They're getting less and less invasive. I mean, people still have facelifts and stuff, but those facelifts are getting better and less invasive and less problematic too. But all of the advancements that we're seeing, some of them, a lot of them helping to make someone look younger if they've already aged, and then a number of them preventative. Some of them that I use, right, like human source stem cell cream, stuff like that. Well, anyway, my point is I notice that 40 something and even 50 something female celebrities are dating younger men now. I don't, they might be younger than these women, or they might be younger than what the people that these women would have traditionally dated, even 5 years ago. And I have to think that that is because for women of a certain means, 40 and 50 just don't look like what they used to look like. And I know people say, well, yeah, but they look fake. Well, they're not looking so fake anymore. Yes, there are some people like Gwen Stefani, for instance. I haven't seen Nicole Kidman in a while, but she was one that I used to think this about. But yes, there are some people that you look at them and it's very obvious they've had work done, and not in a good way, and they have like a kind of a waxy look, or the features look a little bit strange, or the face is bloated, or what have you, right? And so, like for instance, with Gwen Stefani, she's still a very attractive woman, but the lip implant and its face is stretched and stuff. Yeah, I get it. There are some people it still looks fake, but there are a lot of people who used to look fake with the procedures, and they're looking more natural now. And there are a lot of people I'm seeing who obviously I just know that they've had work done, because you just can't naturally look that much younger when you're a certain age. And so I know they've had work done, but it's very, very subtle. Rachel Weisz is an excellent example. This is someone that I've talked about on my channel before. So she's a very renowned actress. She was in the recent Amazon series. God, what was it called? It was based off the Cronenberg one about the twins. Oh, I'm blanking. I can't believe I'm blanking. But anyway, double Dead Ringers. Anyway, she plays twins. Well, the point is, and she's also married to Daniel Craig, James Bond. Well, the point is, Rachel Weisz is now in her mid 50s, and she looks like she could be 30. And and it used to be that when someone would be in their mid 50s, like a celebrity, when you'd have a woman or a man in their mid 50s who could pass for younger, it used to be that when you look closely and carefully at them, you would see just weird stuff, like, okay, they look like they could be young, except they just look strange. But I don't see that with Rachel Weisz. Like, you look at her in all kinds of different settings and award shows and photos, but also the up close and personal on that series that she was in. And I know they have makeup and all that, but I'm just saying she looks young and she doesn't look fake. And I'm seeing this more and more. There was a picture of Brad Pitt, and of course, it's not just women, right? Men are getting cosmetic procedures and anti-aging procedures, really almost as much as women now. But like Brad Pitt, there was an article just recently this week about how he's Benjamin Button turning back the hands of time. And you look at a picture of him, and he looks like he could be in his 30s, but he looks good. He looks natural. And so my point is that you've got that on the one hand, and then also the fertility thing. So it used to be, the idea was that only younger women were fertile. And there's debate about what exactly that window is or what have you, but it was generally understood that a woman needs to have her first child by the age of 35. And although I've had a number of friends getting naturally pregnant in their late 30s recently, but in almost 40s. But anyway, the point is, though, there was this ideal window for your best chances to conceive and having the healthiest kids and all of that. And I'm not saying that that window has gone away, but now you are seeing all of these instances where women who are in their early, mid, late 40s and even 50s. So I'll give you an example: Kourtney Kardashian and Rachel Weisz, not using. I think she was 49 when she got pregnant and had her latest one, not using a surrogate, right? As far as we know, just using all these fertility treatments. And so my point is that we are seeing that women of a certain economic means, I think increasingly as these techniques get more and more sophisticated, women and men of a certain economic means are just not going to be as bound by aging. They just aren't. They're not going to have nearly as many of the physical signs of aging as soon, or they're going to be able to adjust them, fix them, if you will. And also, there's all kinds of stuff that celebrities and wealthy people and even upper middle class people have access to in the way of all kinds of like specialized hormone regimens and so forth. I know like almost anybody can get on hormones, right? But I'm talking about specialized hormone regimens and just all of this stuff that's out there now is coming out. And stem cell regeneration, right? Stem cell is not just about the creams, right? If you go to a stem cell clinic, if you go to like Panama, where Mel Gibson took his dad, Mel Gibson's dad was having, I saw an interview with him about this on Joe Rogan. You might have seen this a while back, but Mel Gibson's dad was having all kinds of like joint problems or back problems. I can't remember. And so he goes to this clinic in Panama because it wasn't legal in the US or something, goes to this stem cell clinic in Panama, gets the therapy. And not only does it solve his joint or back problems, but it solves a lot of other stuff like his erectile dysfunction, apparently. Mel Gibson was making jokes about that. But seriously, so here's what I'm getting at. We are fast approaching a time where those of a certain economic means will have significantly longer lifespans. And it's not like this has always been true to a degree as well, right? But it'll be in everyone's face. It won't just be a matter of like, well, they're wealthy, so can afford to buy more organic stuff, or they can afford to get more checkups. But it'll be they're wealthy, so they can afford all of this different technology and all of these different pharmaceuticals and interventions that will make them look and feel dramatically younger. And if you've seen the movie In Time with who's in that? Oh gosh, Justin Timberlake and Olivia Wilde and Amanda Seyfried. And the thesis of In Time is that in the not too distant future, the currency will not be dollar bills or euros or whatever, but the currency will actually be the number of years that you can have added to your life, longevity. And so the poor will have much shorter lives, and the wealthy can live on indefinitely, maybe for even hundreds of years. and can be young. There's a scene where Justin Timberlake is being introduced to a woman, her daughter, and her granddaughter, and they all look the same. They all look the same age. They all look like they're 25. So it's like, hey, meet my mom. She looks 25. Meet my grandma. She looks 25. Meet my great grandma. She looks 25, right? Now, do I see this as being a good thing or a bad thing? Well, the answer, as with most questions in life, is I see it as being potentially both. There are upsides and downsides. Overall, I actually think it's going to be a good thing. And let me tell you why, okay? Well, let's start with why it's a bad thing, because I think those are obvious. Those factors are obvious. First of all, it is tremendously unfair that people of economic means can live longer and will be able to live significantly longer, probably at some point in the future, and can look a lot better and can have increased fertility. Like the wealthy people will literally and are literally able to have children, while poorer people are not, if they're infertile, right? It is unfair, I understand, but here's the thing. Advances in science and technology, they do historically tend to trickle down. I'm not talking about like trickle down economics like with Reagan. I'm not trying to get into an economic discussion. I'm trying to talk about how we can see historically that something that starts off really expensive, for example, it gradually becomes more affordable until a lot more people can afford it and take advantage of it. And it's the same actually with cosmetic interventions. Botox used to be something that was a lot more expensive and exclusive and so forth. And so and it's it most of these places now, these spas and these clinics, they offer payment plans. I'm not saying it's the greatest idea, but for some people, but they offer payment plans and so forth. So actually, I guess what I'm trying to say is there are a lot of middle class, quote unquote, middle class people who are able to take advantage of a number of these interventions now. And I've told you before that basically my father-in-law, he owns a medical spa, and they do a lot of this anti-aging medicine and anti-aging, procedures and so forth. And he doesn't just see a lot of rich people. He sees a lot of people that we would think of as very middle class, but they're choosing to spend their money on this instead of spending it on something else, and they find a way to make it work, maybe in good ways or bad ways or whatever, but they do financially. And so my point is that overall, what you're going to see, let me give you actually one more example. This is a great example. I was just reading about it this week, about the way that when technology is first introduced, it is very unfairly and disproportionately available to the wealthy, but then over time, it actually trickles down to everyone, and so everyone is able to, or a lot of people are able to enjoy it. Let me give you another example. Howard Hughes. I'm not going to get in his biography or whatever, but there's one thing that I want to say about Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes lived in a time when they did not have any kind of home viewing systems. So there were no DVD players, there was no digital stuff, no Netflix, no computers, there were no, and TVs were very, very rudimentary. And there's certainly no VCRs or anything like that, right? Or videotapes for someone to beam into the home, so to speak, right? To watch what they want to watch. And so Howard Hughes was so desperate to be able to watch what he wanted to watch when he wanted to watch it, that he bought a television station. He spent a pretty good amount of money buying a TV station, and so that then he could program what they were to show every day according to his schedule. And that was his equivalent of having a Netflix, player, DVD player, or whatever. Now, here's my point. Back then, when Howard Hughes was alive, he had to spend major, major money just to be able to have a little bit of access to films on demand and TV shows on demand. He had to spend a lot of money, and it was very unheard of, and really no one else did that or had that. But fast forward, so it was a very elite thing available only to the very few, right? Fast forward then several decades later, and where we are now is that in a lot of cases, even people that we consider to be economically and financially disadvantaged, They have access to all kinds of stuff. We all have access to all kinds of stuff, right? Through these different streamers, through our computers, through our even just our phones, right? And so my point is that I do believe that eventually is exclusively available only to the wealthy or the upper middle class or whatever, but then they do trickle down. And so I see it as a good thing in that way, and then I also see it as a good thing in that, I do think that women are going to be, and we're already seeing it now from like celebrity women and women of a certain economic means, that women are going to be less bound to this very narrow window of sexual marketplace value. And no, I'm not delusional enough to say that a 50-year-old Gwen Stefani is exactly the same as a 25-year-old Gwen Stefani. Okay. I'm just saying, though, that over time and as these advancements increase and become refined and more sophisticated, you're going to see the gap between 50-year-old Gwen Stefani and 25-year-old Gwen Stefani. You're going to see it considerably narrowing, not just in terms of actual physical appearance and how someone appears to the other person, but also actually, yes, in terms beyond that, in terms of some actual biologically significant markers of fertility and of health in other ways. And it's not just women, right? And I don't want to make it seem that it's just women, because it's also going to be the case with men, because men too are bound by their biology. We could say that, due to the general dynamics of the sexual marketplace, that men are not nearly as encumbered by aging as women, but still. And so you look at someone, though, like Paul Rudd, several weeks ago, or what, months ago, he was trending on Twitter for looking so young. And let me just tell you, Paul Rudd looking like he could be in his late 20s when he's in his 50s, that's not totally natural. I absolutely guarantee you, promise you, would bet everything on it that he has had and is having some work done. But that's okay, and more power to him. Now, obviously, where we get in trouble, I think, with these kinds of trends is that it's unfortunate if people who cannot afford these interventions, particularly as they become more common among a certain set, people who cannot afford it, or people who are not interested, like Justine Bateman, Jason Bateman's sister and the star of what, Family Ties. She said, "I love my face. People say I look old. People compare my pictures. I love my face." And I think that what we should, I hope we can find a way to do in society, is to find a way to validate those choices, and people who do want to be natural, and people who don't feel that an aging face is anything to change. I hope that we can find a way to continue to validate those people as well. And I see a number of celebrities that it's very obvious they're deliberately bucking the trend of cosmetic and anti-aging interventions. One example is Amanda Peet. Amanda Peet, beautiful, beautiful actress. She's always been beautiful. She still is beautiful. I saw her in two shows recently in the last several years. One of them was Dirty John, season 2. She played Betty Broderick, really brilliant. I think they made Betty too likable. Betty is just really not a likable person. But Amanda Peet was in that, and then most recently she was in the revival of Fatal Attraction. She's playing the aggrieved wife, Ann Archer's role. Anyway, it's very obvious that she's had no cosmetic interventions. Her face is extremely wrinkled, and it's got a ton of freckles and brown spots on it. It looks like someone who had spent a lot of time in the sun and had, very full, happy first part of her life, maybe on beaches and what have you, and someone who is secure enough in herself to not think that she needs to put these wrinkles away. And evidently, if she's getting all of this work, I'm seeing her in all of these different TV series. Evidently, there are people who are hiring her and who don't have a problem with her natural looking face. So I appreciate people like that, people who are truly individuals and who resist the pressure in the entertainment industry to conform to a certain look. But I also see that long term, the direction that the human species is going in is toward more and more technological interventions. This is something that philosophers have been talking about and scientists have been talking about for a long time, the emergence of the techno-human. And the fact that ultimately human beings will become fused with technology in various ways. We're already there, but biologically, even, physically fused with technology in various ways, and that we will no longer be just a human species, but we will be something that is both human and technological. And so I see the anti-aging and the cosmetic advancements and the advancements in fertility and so forth. I see those as being aspects of this larger general movement from humanity of humanity from a natural state to a technologically oriented state. And so anyway, it's going to have its upsides, it's going to have its downsides, but I think it's interesting. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you more later.